Now to an issue in Maine schools as some districts have been grappling with the high levels of so-called forever chemicals.
There's been growing concern about PFAS in recent years, and mandated testing revealed some shocking results. Mal Meyer has been looking into this and joins us now in the studio. Good morning, Mal. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
So when did this testing begin and why?
So there was a state law that was passed back in 2021 that required certain places to be testing their water for forever chemicals or PFAS. And in this case, this applied to certain water systems, including schools and childcare facilities. And while a lot of them were absolutely completely fine, we found that there was actually a few dozen that actually reached above state standards.
Pretty concerning stuff for schools that did have the high levels. You know, what do they have to do and what was their response?
So basically, first they had to let people know that they had these elevated levels, and then they had to take steps to go on and actually address that. So Raymond Elementary actually has repeatedly had the highest level of PFAS in the state. The state limit is 20 parts per trillion, and that is a very small number, but they did have levels that were reaching about 1,000 parts per trillion, sometimes even higher than that. So the school immediately went to bottled water in January of last year, and they weren't able to find the actual source. Even the school, their own school across the street, was completely fine.
Wow. So Mel, what have they done for a long-term solution?
Yeah, so first they started using these water jugs and have been going on that bottled water, and then they set out to try to find the source of the problem. And unfortunately for them, they were not able to find it. They did ultimately work with experts, and that's when they decided to drill a completely new well. Unfortunately, that new well ended up having elevated levels of radon. So then they had to get a different system to then come take care of that, which you can kind of see here. As you imagine, this whole entire process has been quite costly.
2 years in, and we're probably close to $250,000 that we've spent on remediation between the well, the radon system, and then redoing other parts of our system to get PFAS out.
It's been a busy time. I've got great support from Chris and the school board as well to make these things all happen. And at the end of the day, it's doing what's right for kids.
So one thing that we didn't get to in our original story is that there are new lower federal limits that will be coming up on the horizon. The Maine CDC says that they are preparing for these, which will require some additional testing, and more schools could then need plans for treatment in the future. But importantly, Maine is a leader.
The new federal regulations start out by just getting everybody to sample. And we already have done all of that sampling, so we're out ahead.
All right, so what should parents know about this? Obviously, it seems like this school specifically is working as hard as they can to make it safe for the students.
Exactly, and one big question that I had was how concerned should parents be given that they had these extremely high levels? So I took that question to an expert with the Colorado School of Public Health, and he says that they just don't know enough yet about the length of exposure and how high it needs to be to have a negative health impact on kids, but suggested that families look at different exposure levels, including their own water, their food, even clothing or stain-resistant sprays, all which can have these PFAS. So if people are very concerned, they can get some blood tests done, but there is one big takeaway.
If you stop being exposed, your blood level should come down. And we have evidence that that's happening throughout the country.
So that is some very good news for families.
And as parents too, it would be shocking if you go online to find out everything that PFAS is in. I mean, including furniture, even some of the turf that some of the soccer and football and field hockey players play on. I mean, it's like we're surrounded by it.
And I think that this has really been sparked in recent years just by this public awareness, especially the long history that Maine has had with sludge, biosolids being spread on fields, and that's been one of the big focal points of this entire thing. And I think it's good ultimately that people are more aware and can find this information out.
Yeah, and good to see these schools, at least this one, taking action.
Yes, and they definitely are taking action, and the state is working with them to do so.
Yeah, and big thing too, nothing wrong with asking questions.
Yes.
That's right. All right, Mal, thanks so much for the update.